He moved.
You don't have what?
Yeah, I know.
Just ask for the field.
Oh, I know.
Might end up in
Are they gonna turn it off all the way down Market? That's my hair shop. So people that go to work
I don't know you're on a roll, I thought. Well, I know that.
Yeah, he
That's
cleaned
what
my
they're
office. They cleaned my office. Yeah, we'll probably call you.
Enjoy.
You're not recording right now, are you?
No, I'm still looking around, right?
No, I just don't want to be recorded right now, so if I take them out, which I'm doing right now. What's gonna happen?
Hey, Mike. How are you?
Yes, that's it, right there. They always do it, and they're just past practice. I think that changed.
I got a case of where he lives after.
Are you wanting to fill out a comment card, ma'am? There's the comment cards right there. There should be another pen. There's a pen right here. Are you all done with this one, ma'am? Or you want to fill out a comment card?
I'm just gonna say, yeah.
We have comment cards right here if you're wanting to fill one out.
Most breakdowns, we heard, they'll bring in everything. I've been gone for 2 weeks. Vacation last week, I got my oldest son married off.
living close by here, or?
He's in Indianapolis.
Steelers.
Hey. I went in and put Julie right next to me since she's going to have the names.
What's that?
I put Julie right next to me. I figured that's where you were. And I figured that's where you were. That's good. Okay. I don't think so. I've been living and breathing this for a while.
You want that?
I already have. So Jennifer and Tom, John aren't coming either.
Jennifer will be late.
Kind of late. David's here.
Mark will be here, right? So if we get a couple of Uber comments, is that okay? I'm not bringing that up until they do. You can line through it if you want.
It's kind of unique sitting in a normal council chamber as the city manager.
Okay, all right. Okay. All right.
Jen's portrait's here.
Is that ATU?
Oh yeah, I've dealt with her for years. So.
Hopefully we're gonna have some people. Yeah, you're hot. I'm gonna wait until Mark. We're about 2 minutes late now.
You don't have to wait for me.
Yeah.
So you've been traveling much lately? This few weeks. I've been traveling to state of Illinois, but not on appointment, thank God. Okay. First quarter of the year. I think I'm sitting in your seat, Mark, aren't I?
That's fine. Rather you than me.
How are you, Mark?
I got cornered by Leo too. He was chatted for quite a while after you.
Okay. You got both of us.
Thanks everyone for taking some time out of your Monday evening to share your thoughts about Connect Transit's route proposal. I'm Board Vice Chair Mike McCurdy. This public hearing will get underway in just a moment, but before we hear our first comments, I want to turn to General Manager Andrew Johnson for an update on this process and how Connect Transit staff has listened, adapted, and modified this plan. Andrew?
Yes, and thank you for being here. When we began this process in January of 2015, we made a commitment to finding a way to make Connect Transit service be simple to use. That means it operates at regular intervals, it operates along direct paths, it uses symmetrical routing, it serves well-defined markets, and it's well-coordinated at transfer points. Now, we also made a commitment at that time to ensuring strong public participation as we crafted this proposal to reimagine our transit system. We needed to find a balance between service efficiency and service coverage to best serve the entire community. We knew that no matter what, we would not be able to please everyone, but we also knew that it was critical that the citizens help us find that balance. We couldn't do it properly if we did it in a vacuum. Now, we think that the citizens of Bloomington Normal have absolutely stepped up over the last 8 months to voice their opinions about public transportation and the service in this community. Those opinions are what has shaped this proposal. Those opinions are what has prompted modifications to fixed route service in the Northbrook area of Normal and the west side of Bloomington. Those opinions have also prompted Connect Transit to provide first mile, last mile solutions to ensure access to transit in areas of the community that would lose service as a result of the fixed route plan that is the subject of this public hearing today. It is not being voted on tomorrow, but we are looking at all of the possible first mile, last mile solutions. You've probably heard that we've been talking to Uber about it as well. It will be considered in late May or June, and Connect is committed to having a solution in place at the same time that the route restructure is implemented in August. We are very excited to be on the verge of radically improving our transportation system in Bloomington Normal. We are grateful that you are here today and look forward to hearing your comments. Thank you.
Thanks, Andrew. Thanks, Andrew. As we get ready for our first speaker, I would remind everyone that we're here tonight to listen and not debate. Staff will be taking notes and may provide some response following the comment period this evening. The Town of Normal Council meets immediately following this public hearing, and we'll hear from our last speaker no later than 10 minutes past 6, leaving some time for staff to provide some final responses and for us to vacate the room and make room for the Normal Town Council. This public hearing is now open. We're ready for our first speaker, and that would be Warren Turner.
Hello, my name
Hi, Warren. Can you step up here to the center microphone, please? Thank you. Thanks, Warren. Have a seat.
Hello, my name is Warren Turner. I'm glad Bloomington Normal has a transportation system that's public. There are some things I would like to address about that system, specifically the change of the Lime I route. The Lime I route presently runs down from Center straight down to Washington, and it turns and eventually ends up at Walmart. It passes many valuable resources. Community Action, DC Department of Human Services, along with other retail outlets. They're amending to change that route from going down Washington to going down Market. Even though that's like a 3-block difference, but for people that are handicapped, elderly, or carrying children, or even coming back from their location with packages, would be an extremely hardship for them. I would recommend that route stays the same. It doesn't have to have the same name, but the route stays the same. And I think others would appreciate that also. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Warren. Our next speaker is Richard Anderson. Richard, if you'd step forward. Thank you.
Name is Richard Anderson. I'm a regular rider and been a regular rider for about 10 years. And I'm a little upset with the way the routes are laid out, and the fact that I now will have to change buses 3 times to do what I do now with 1 change. This is my house to the bus is 1 minute. Now I'm going to have to walk 1.5 blocks to 2 blocks to catch a bus. And then I'll have to get off of that bus and get on another bus out in the middle of nowhere. I don't know where it's going. The maps that were produced by you people did not list any stops where the start and stop times were on those routes. So how can we figure our times en route? It's almost an impossibility. Now, I've ridden with almost all the drivers that we have in the system. I've got nothing but praise for all of them. All of them get me there and get me back safely. I've only had, maybe in 10 years, 1 time or 2 that I did not meet my time estimate getting to my destination. And that was not the fault of the driver. It was the fault of another situation. But this is what I would like to see, was more information passed on to us as individual riders and individuals that use this system on a regular basis. I ride with a lot of people that are not going to have bus service, period, because of the changes of the routes. And I don't know what else that can be done to correct that, but what we have had in the past 5 years is adequate, with maybe some fine tuning on some of the routes, not all of them. I rode on a 40-passenger bus the other day for 18 blocks without picking up another rider. There was 3 of us on that bus. We dropped off one at Walmart on the west side, picked up 2, and went on to Normal, and we picked up 2 more en route there. We had a 40-passenger bus.
Okay, Richard, that's 3 minutes. Can you wrap
Yeah,
up, please?
I'm sorry.
Okay.
That's about, I'll call it quits at this moment, but I'm very unhappy with what I see as far as the information that we had.
Okay, thank you for your comments. Richard Radcliffe, I'm sorry, Vincent Radcliffe? Vincent, are you here?
Radcliffe, but Blair.
I have a Vincent Radcliffe.
Yeah, it says Vincent.
All right, we'll set that one aside for now.
Did you ask for Radcliffe?
Well, it says
It
Vincent.
says Vincent on it. Shelley Wellnider? Wellnider? Hi, Shelley.
I just want to say that, thank you for having me first of all. So, I just want to let you know that when you know that to help with the handicap, and we're
It's okay, take your time.
the best people who can get. I know that way, but now when you have a bus here, you can't get around all the way. I think that we need more that one count a handicap and get able to get around more because who the railroad will come. I think thank you for letting me come up and talk. I am going to put forward so we can get a count at one hand and on the curve. We can have a better too. I have.
Thank you.
Thank you. Larry Radcliffe.
My name is Larry Radcliffe, and I live on Pine Meadows Court in Northeast Normal, which is the Blue E route. 12 years ago, I had a work-related accident and suffered a traumatic brain injury, which has caused me to be disabled and lose my driver's license due to cognitive difficulties and the risk of having seizures. I was paralyzed on my right side for a while, so it is hard for me to walk very far. My current bus stop is down the end of my street. The closest bus stop that you are proposing is over a mile away, and it would take me too long to walk there. I'd have to take a taxi to the nearest bus stop, which is a lot costlier than the bus. There was a discussion a couple of years ago about changing the Blue E route, and I attended the meeting to persuade you not to make any changes, and I appreciated that you left the route the way it was. I'm married, but my wife works long hours and she can't always take time off to take me to my doctor visits and other appointments I may have. There are no other options available to me for means of transportation it gets too expensive to take a taxi. If I don't have bus transportation available to me, I feel like I've lost my independence. Changing this route would also eliminate the Evergreen Village Supportive Living and the Ironwood Gardens apartments, which both often have riders. Please reconsider leaving a closer stop for me to acquire the bus. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Dee Thompson.
One of the first things I wanted to say is I don't think you have done a fair job allowing us to become informed about what you're doing here. You posted a very small sign inside the bus that had this particular meeting scheduled, but yet you spent months with the Planet Normal signs in very visible points, and this morning you put up very visible signs about the Corn Belter tickets, but you have not been very forthcoming with this information. I had to get it from your office. I had to request it from Kyle because I could not get it off your website. It would not come across. I couldn't get the big picture. I couldn't get individual pictures. So I think that was very ill-informed in the way you've handled this process. I also don't understand why you need to make this change when you put all the new signage up in November, because all of that's going to have to come down. And I think you need to have, you seem to have drifted the major hub to Normal, and there's a very little hub left at Eastland Mall, which has a very adequate place for people to get in and out of. And I am going to be in one of those areas that's going to be underserved, and I also cannot afford an Uber cab, or if I could, I wouldn't be using your system. But it's going to take me 2 to 3 transfers to get where I used to be able to get in one. And I don't see how that's servicing people when you've pretty much excluded everybody on the west side of town who really needs your service. That's why they live over there, because they don't have a lot of money. They can't afford to take a cab everywhere we want to go. You cut out the ability to be near a grocery store, drugstore, and I don't think that you've looked at this in a way where you can say that you're providing a public transportation service, because it seems like you're ignoring the public. Thank you.
Thank you. We have a lot of speakers tonight, so I would ask that everyone please hold their applause until the very end so we can move through all of the speakers, so we have time for everyone. The next 3 speakers are Shirley Craig, Art Abrams, and Hannah Melby. First one, Shirley Craig. Then Art Abrams and Hannah Melby should be ready to speak after that. Thank you.
Hi, I've come to a lot of these meetings, starting back when you were talking about the signage, and I wanted to thank you for a couple of changes, but talk about one of those changes briefly. The Olive Route. The last meeting I was at, I talked to one of your very friendly staff people and asked if I was reading the route wrong. It doesn't go to a transfer center. And as we were discussing, the light bulb came on and the young lady said, no, it doesn't. And she did some checking and got back to me and said, no, it was not meant to go to a transfer center. All right. I can understand it's fairly far from a transfer center, but that Olive connects to what I call the OSF building that has prompt care and 3 physical therapy groups in it. I've used the bus to get to that building several times. I would love to see the Olive go to a transfer center, because that makes it a whole lot easier on people who are trying to get out there. If that's not possible, I would at least beg you, for the sake of all the people using the bus for physical therapy, people in leg casts and with crutches and etc., to make sure that, and I picked the contact point where the purple, red, and the olive meet at Susan Drive, to at least make sure that the schedules coordinate So if someone's trying to get to that building for physical therapy, that they can go directly, and particularly in winter, not have to stand out there for more than a couple of minutes. And hopefully whatever site that bus stop is at will be level ground. That may be asking a lot, but level ground works a whole lot better than rocks or slopes, things like that. And that is what I wanted to bring forth to you. Thank you very much for the meeting.
Thank you. Art Abrams, Hannah Melby, Ryan Herron. Art Abrams, you're next. Oh. Can you all come up at once, too? We'll just cue you. Hannah Melby and Ryan Herron are after Art. Hi, Art. Thanks for coming tonight.
I'm a stay. I like to stay. Well, I'm Art Abrams. I also am that transit driver. I agree with a couple of the passengers, the riders. The routes are changing. Everything is good for a change. But my main concern is the part with the Uber drivers. I'm trying to figure out what do that means to me. You cutting out routes. You add Uber. Who's taking the other half of the cost of that? And our second problem is, out of the whole 20 years I've been here, this company is kind of like shifting downwards instead of going forward. It's like, I complain, we have a fleet of 50, we only got 2 service guys, and the buses are filthy, it's dirty. I have allergy, I gotta take all these Claridins and eye drops every day just to try to keep myself from not clogging up. We have 2 servicemen, we hiring more managers, we hiring more supervisors, but we're not hiring the help that we really actually need. That's all I have to say about it. I think we should hire more service guys to help clean the buses. What's good is wrapping and watching the outside of it and the inside is filthy. It's just disgusting. That's all I got to say about it.
Hannah, you're next, and then Ryan Herron and James Reardon.
All right.
Go ahead.
My name's Hannah. I'm a community support specialist with Chestnut Family Health Center, and I'm speaking on behalf of a patient who came with me tonight. This particular patient is in a motorized wheelchair. However, when the weather conditions are bad, she has to use her manual wheelchair. And cutting out the bus stops that stop on West Chestnut Street, right outside of Chestnut Behavioral Health Systems, that would cause her to, I guess, go uphill from Market to Chestnut Street in a manual wheelchair. And more than likely it'll be on the street as opposed to the sidewalk, especially when there's snow on the ground. So that's just, I guess, one instance where we would like to see the bus stops stay close to a clinic that a lot of people who don't have other means of transportation use.
Okay, thank you for your comments.
Yeah.
James Reardon, Bonnie Johnson, Ron Pope, can you step up, please? James, you're next.
Ryan.
I'm sorry. Actually, Ryan Herron is next. Sorry.
Sorry.
Thank you, Ryan.
Good evening. My name is Ryan Herron, Director of the Toole Library, and wanted to speak tonight on the proposed route changes. Last Monday, I spoke in the Bloomington City Council meeting about the concerns on the west side and the removal of the Lime Eye. And it was within a few days, Connect Transit had reached out to us and asked to have a listening session to hear our concerns. And on Thursday of that same week, they've presented the revised map, which included the new Gold Route, which replaces service on the West Washington corridor and providing access to the grocery store in Bloomington on Kroger, additional routes that run through the west side, as well as plans to be able to transfer to the new Lime Eye and reach Walmart. So I wanted to speak and in thanks to Connect Transit for listening to our concerns and working quickly to address those with this new Gold route. We believe that Connect Transit can be a partner to organizations such as ours. We realize that not everyone can be happy, but we hope to maintain that partnership and continue to work together to provide that service on the west side. We're supportive of the complete streets strategy of comprehensive land use planning, investment in our infrastructure, such as this urban fill versus the sprawling development, improvements to our streets, sidewalks, safe pedestrian crossings, lighting, and benches on the west side. The only feedback that we will continue to have is that we can continue to provide that direct line of communication on those needs on the west side, and hope that we continue in that partnership. Thank you.
Thank you, Ryan. James Reardon, Bonnie Johnson, and then Ron Pope.
Hello, my name is Jim Reardon. I'm the ATU president. In the past, our union has had a contentious relationship with the union, and I've tried very hard to change that. I've offered to management to establish a committee of very experienced drivers to help with these routes. It was not accepted, not used. And I think that's a big part of our problem, is we're having software being used, computer software, instead of the drivers who communicate with these people every day. They're not getting the input that we have of these passengers that are showing up here today. They see them every day. And instead, you're doing the easy route and using a computer software program to develop these plans. It's just not working. I've been gone on vacation last week. My son got married. And I got a letter from Isaac Thorne, who is the chief operating officer. He said how excited he was that there's this new option available for the new plan here. The new plan, then no mention was mentioned of Uber. Then I see in the paper on Wednesday, this was Monday that the letter came, Wednesday, I see that Andrew Johnson there with Uber. Uber is not regulated. Their people are not trained. They're not in our union, and they're not the answer. Please reconsider. Thank you.
My understanding is that Uber is just one of the options we're working on to try to solve the first mile, last mile problem. Again, as Andrew pointed out earlier, that's a separate vote. It is connected, but it is a separate vote, and tomorrow we'll be voting on the route restructuring. Our next speaker is Bonnie Johnson, then Ron Pope, and then Brian Nanada.
I have a question. I'll try to talk really quickly and fit this in. First of all, I think it would have been totally possible for you to achieve your goals, like simple routes, non-circuitous routes, regular stops, coordinated transfer points, etc., without doing so much harm. I think what you have done with the routes has created a lot of harm. And it's not just, oh, look, this is a transit service that doesn't offer, ways for the handicapped, the seniors, and the disabled to do things. It's deliberately, intentionally taking them away. Like the voting precincts on the Blue E. New York just passed a law, voting precincts have to be on bus routes. So what are you guys doing? You're taking them away because you're taking away the Blue E, and that route caters to seniors, evergreen assisted living, to the poor, in mobile home parks, and that's just one of the things. I have a whole list of things, and I have a feeling that it's not going to matter if I went over them here, because even though you say you have encouraged strong public participation, this is your first and only public hearing before there's a vote. So how do you think that makes us feel? This is the first chance we have had to see you all face and tell you how we feel. I know you say, oh, we had the listening sessions. Well, they weren't good enough. I mean, we went, and the most we were allowed to do was have 2 or 3 minutes with, a random board member here or there, or yourself, Andrew, and then write something on a small piece of paper and shove it in a box. Now, if something was happening that was going to drastically change your life, would you think that was enough?
Yeah.
Would you? They say, oh, we had the listening system. I'm sorry, that's not enough. And we will not be convinced that you really care about these things when you have one public hearing, which you have to have by law, and then take the vote tomorrow. Now, I mean, so I presume you're not going to hear us no matter what we say. However, I do believe there are other people who will. And I think that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Ron Pope, Brian Anata, and Jeremy Studebaker.
I'm not sure this mic is on, right?
Yes.
Okay. As I said, my name is Ron Pope. I'm a retired ISU political science professor, but I promise not to lecture like one this evening. Anyway, I can understand why people are concerned, and I can also understand why it's not possible to solve everyone. You change the routes, may improve things for some people and make things worse for others. I want to focus on just one stop on one route, though, and that's the stop at OSF Fort Jesse. I believe that was the stop that was mentioned earlier, too. Just the woman couldn't remember what it was called, but OSF Fort Jesse. I have Parkinson's. I need to go exercise regularly, in fact, every day of the week, or I would very quickly become much less mobile, much less, well, it would make a difference in my life. I think that you know, I know there's a special bus service for people that can't afford a taxi and can't take the regular buses. But as my understanding is that that's already overloaded. And obviously that's a much more expensive way to handle people than if they can use the regular buses. Moving the bus stop at OSF Fort Jesse out to the street, out to Halstead, will make that facility immediately inaccessible to people on crutches, canes, walkers, etc., all of which I've seen over the more than a year that I've been riding the bus. In the wintertime, it will make it inaccessible for me, too. My wife will not allow me to go out and slip and fall on the ice. But there is a solution. 40-foot buses are also apparently a problem there on the current drop-off. But there's a solution to that. You just go up the hill and to the other side of the building, and you have an identical type drop-off point, which you don't have to walk over ice and snow and for a long distance to get to that. Now, I understand that possibly the insurance company, the Transit Systems Insurance Company, doesn't want them stopping in parking lots. And I understand that that's because if you get off the bus on the street, you're no longer the insurance company's responsibility if there's an accident. You get off the bus in a parking lot, there's an accident, then the transit company's insurance has to deal with that. If that's not correct, I'm ready to stand corrected on that. But I just point out that what's best for the community as a whole isn't always what's best for insurance companies. So I would hope you would take that into account when you're deciding whether or not to stay out of that parking lot at OSF Fort Jesse, when there is an acceptable alternative for the larger bus to stop up on the other side of that hill. Anyway, enough said. Starting to sound like the political science professor again.
All right, thank you, Ron. Yep, sir. Andrew wants to say a word.
Just to address a couple of things that you stated, sir. The Connect Mobility bus, while it has seen increases in ridership, it is not over capacity, and people can make reservations and ride that bus. Also, with regard to insurance, actually, no matter where we are, there is a radius around the bus where we will have liability no matter what. So it doesn't matter if it's on the street or in a parking lot.
I would point out, too, I forgot, it's more dangerous to let us out on the street than it is to let us out in the parking lot.
Brian Anata, then Jeremy Studebaker, and after that, Larry Stevig.
Good evening, Brian Anata, resident of Bloomington, Illinois, 38-year driver for Connect Transit and Bloomington Normal Public Transit System, 25-year officer for the ATU. It's our understanding that a contract is pending between Uber and Connect Transit amid a proposed overhaul of routes and schedules in our area. Connect Transit General Manager Andrew Johnson has said the bus system would subsidize Uber rides to resolve the first mile, last mile problem for some customers cut off by the route changes. Based on our observations from around the U.S. in recent months, ATU calls for the Transit Board to put the brakes on this proposal in the best interest of the riding public. While it is true that transit systems from coast to coast have begun to partner with Uber and other so-called transportation network companies, its seemingly well-intentioned efforts to address the first mile, last mile issue, the arrangements have had unintended consequences. Mandatory vehicle inspections and criminal background checks are not included in the Uber business model. They have actually stated publicly that drivers don't want to be bothered with going to a government office during regular work hours to obtain a license or permits, or to give fingerprints. The real issue is that there is no accountability for who is qualified. Uber's screening process does not check the FBI's criminal database. The company outsources its background checks. As a result, there have been horrific ride-sharing incidents all across the country. Uber drivers have recently been accused of kidnapping, drug smuggling, rape, and other crimes. In San Francisco, a Uber driver ran over and killed a young girl. In Michigan, a Uber driver went on a killing spree while on duty. This is totally an unregulated industry which is operating like it's the Wild West. Unlike transit operators regulated by the Federal Transit Administration, Uber drivers are not randomly checked for drug and alcohol use. There is no governing body establishing maintenance standards for vehicles. Rather than relying on the Food and Drug Administration, would we rely on food manufacturers to police themselves? Should doctors be allowed to see patients without going to medical school as long as they are self-certified? Why should bus riders be treated any different? Uber and other TNCs have simply walked away from cities and states that have had the nerve to enact simple ordinances that protect the well-being of the general public. We challenge Bloomington Normal to do the same. Once we do, Uber will certainly leave town. What does that say about our commitment to public safety? Insurance is the other issue that has come up in other cities. Once again, they want nothing to do with expensive commercial insurance or registering their cars as livery vehicles. If an accident happens when one of our passengers is in the car, who gets caught holding the bag? Moreover, although ride-sharing is a relatively new phenomenon, some transit systems which started with the first mile, last mile approach have already publicly stated that Uber is serving to reduce pressures to expand their bus network into more neighborhoods. Is that what we want here in Bloomington Normal? To further shrink service? In addition, falling bus ridership across the country has been attributed partly to the growing popularity of transportation options such as Uber.
Brian, that's time. Thank you.
One thing I will say about that is,
again, I would ask that you please hold your applause.
in addition to talking about Uber, when I made comments at the Bloomington Council meeting, I also stated that if Uber was not the solution, we are committed to finding a solution. So one way or the other, we plan to have a first mile, last mile solution there. We plan to make it as seamless as possible for the community and the citizens who are affected. And also, we do look forward to finally being able to talk to the union about this as well, as we hope in partnership to work through this.
Jeremy Studebaker is next, calling Larry Stevig again, or Stevig, and then Marilyn Evans after that. Jeremy?
Hi, my name is Jeremy Studebaker, and I am from MCCA. I do community engagement over there, which is Mid-Central Community Action on Washington Street. I first became aware of this and our agency as well at a meeting that took place in March at the WBRP, which Ryan alluded to a little bit earlier. And that's when it was discussed that the Lime I was going to be moving from Washington Street to where it currently is to Market Street during the new proposed route system that they have. When we talked about this, we voiced our concerns. We had a couple meetings with Connect Transit, and they were very nice to hold those meetings with us and explain everything that was going on. And since then, I've been to 3 or 4 meetings with them, and then also I was at the public hearing or the city council meeting in Bloomington last Monday. So when we first heard about this, we really took to our residents and to our clients and to the streets, and we put out some petitions, and we did all this kind of stuff, really focusing on trying to get that route either moved back to Washington Street or for an alternative. So as I went today, I actually collected all or most of the petitions, and I had about 650 signatures. This was before we had our meeting on Thursday when I was at Lifesil with Connect Transit and some of the other nonprofits here in town. and they had the proposed Gold Route that is now servicing West Washington Street and a little bit more of the west side, which I think can still, there's some stuff that we can still work on with that, but this has been actually a very good, it's been very good for us, and it's been great to kind of work on this collaboration with Connect Transit. So I know that with the proposed routes, there is a lot of feedback that you are getting from that. And like I said, to start off with, we were one of the ones who were very concerned about what they were going to be doing. And I think that the Gold Route that you have proposed right now is a very good compromise for us as far as making sure that our clients can still get door-to-door service with a lot of the nonprofits and social service agencies that are going to be on Washington Street, as well as a couple of businesses that are on Washington Street as well. So I wanted to actually thank you for listening to our concerns, for your willingness to work with us and to resolve a couple of these issues as well. Because like I said, I know there is quite a bit that's still going to be going on. It's not going to be the end-all be-all with this proposed route change, because I'm sure there'll be tweaks and everything like that as we go along through there. But I do appreciate the collaboration efforts that Connect Transit has done with us and with some of the other agencies that we've worked with as well to put the Gold Route on here. And I know, like I said, there has been a lot of discussion going back and forth about this too, but I just want to let everybody know that voices are being heard, especially from our end. So this is something I just wanted to talk a little bit about today. So thank you.
Jeremy, thank you. Larry Stevig, Marilyn Evans, and then Wallace Tudor. Hi.
Good afternoon. My name is Larry Stevig. I'm representing I serve as the chair of the board of directors for Emmanuel Health Center. But I'm really here to advocate for the patients that are seen by the center. We're a not-for-profit 501c3 faith-based medical clinic, primary care medical clinic on Morris Avenue, 502 South Morris Avenue. And we are perhaps the only, or if not the only, one of very, very few doctor's offices that offer primary care west of Main Street. So we located specifically in West Bloomington to serve the underserved, medically underserved population in Bloomington. My first involvement with the health center came as we were looking for space to lease in West Bloomington, and of course one of the critical criteria was access to bus lines. We not only wanted to give access to health care to those that were further from it, but we needed to have access, physical transportation access as well. So we're in what you might know as the old St. Joseph Hospital building, the original hospital building. And right now, we're about 2 blocks from the nearest bus stop, which is, it's still 2 blocks, but it's okay. I don't have specific statistics on our patients that use the bus, but at least half have transportation challenges. So a good number of those, I'm sure, do use the bus system. And from what I can tell, the new purple route in West Bloomington appears to stop about 4 blocks from Emmanuel Health Center. We're 4 blocks from Miller Park, from Wood Street, and about 5 blocks from Washington. So we're in between those 2 points. So I understand you have hard decisions that you have to make. I totally get that. But on behalf of the board at Emmanuel Health Center and our patients, I would ask if you could create a stop that would be about a block, roughly a block from the center. Many of our patients now struggle just going 2 blocks. And in the winter, of course, that becomes more difficult. So the community health planning group that I think it's the county health department convenes calls 61701, that zip code west of Main Street, a desert zone for healthcare. And so we really need your help in helping us to help the patients that we serve. I appreciate your consideration.
Marilyn Evans, Wallace Tudor, and Sue Yetham. Marilyn?
All right, I'm Marilyn Evans. I am a retired senior handicapped that's very concerned about a number of different things. One of the things I'm most concerned about is getting to know how to get to the meetings, when the meetings are, and so on. The only way I knew that this meeting was being held was that I wrote the special. I usually use a special, but I also once in a while use the fixed route. Right in front of me, where they had me fastened in, was this sign that said there's a meeting on the 2nd and what it was for, and of course the print was a little smaller, and because my eyesight, since I'm a senior, isn't as good as it was, I had trouble even knowing what it was about. But that's the only way I knew about the meeting. Of course, I heard little things over the radio once in a while. I don't get the newspaper, but we have a person in our building that's very kind and cuts out things that are in the pantograph and puts them on a bulletin board, which nobody really reads. And I often wish that somehow we could get information for our complex, because there are a lot of people in our 8 buildings that could use the service if they knew a little bit more about it than what they do know. People ask me about a lot of things because they know I go to the board meetings. I come to meetings like this to find out what's going on and what's happening. And because a lot of people know that I come, they ask questions. Even drivers ask questions. Last week, at least 2 drivers said, "Marilyn, have you heard about what's going on?" Okay, don't you know what's going on? Well, apparently they didn't, because they were asking me if I knew what was going on. And I'm very concerned about people not knowing as much as they need to know about the transit and when it runs. When I first looked in March at what you were doing with the routes, at first I thought, oh dear, I'm not so sure about this. And then I looked at it, thought about it a little bit more. I think it can work, but it's going to take a lot of time because people don't like change, and especially seniors and handicapped and mothers with kids that have to maybe transfer 3 times to get to where they're going. I know that you're talking about an olive route from our complex to Normal Walmart. But then this evening, I'm wondering, just where are you dropping us off at Normal Walmart? Is it out on a street away from it? Am I going to be able to get from a street into the store, depending on the weather, and so on? And how are other people going to be able to do it? I have lots of questions, and tonight I'm sort of here to hear what others think and to see what's happening.
All right, Marilyn, thank you. That's time. Wallace Tudor.
Yes, I'm Wallace Tudor. Along with what she is saying and what the gentleman before her said, access to a lot of these care facilities seems to be completely disappeared. There's no access to Bromen Hospital. There's no access to the Community Health Care Center up the street on Franklin Avenue. There's no access for the people over on Morris Avenue. And that leads me to wonder, since the Community Health Care Center and his center are both for low-income people that can't afford real doctors and hospitals, where's that service that you keep talking about? Because I'm not seeing it. You know, I was surprised today when I looked at this map to see the Gold Route was added, and that's nice because there is a large number of people that use that West Washington Street area, and we'll get them to community action. But unfortunately, you know, these other folks, the Community Healthcare Center, Broman apparently has enough business they don't care,
The
but
Gold Route does go to Broman.
it does go to Broman?
Yes.
Because on this map, I can't tell that.
Yeah, it does go to Broman. I know the map is kind of small, but it goes there.
Well, it's kind of small, either that or you got Virginia Avenue way in the wrong place, okay, one or the other. But still none of the Community Healthcare Center. And I was reading your website just this morning, and this wasn't on there, which leads me back to a point made earlier. Information letting to the public is less than stellar. Do we all agree on that? Because I think everybody on this side of me agrees on that. When you look at your website, you get a long cut and dried story, but no information. I still have seen nothing about timing of routes. I see a purple route that goes from the west side Walmart all the way to Six Points Road, all the way out to what looks to be pretty close to the Walmart on the east side. That concerns me in your 30-minute time frame that you keep spouting out. Okay, that's not physically possible. You can't go from the east side Walmart to the west side Walmart with this route in 30 minutes. So you're either going to run 4 buses, which has not been mentioned, or you're going to be perpetually late. I think it's nice to see the gold is on there, although, like I say, the map is hard to read and doesn't look like it goes to Broman. But if you've never been out there, I would encourage all of you, take a trip out to Broman, go to their front door, and then walk to the Community Healthcare Center.
Okay, Wallace,
Drive, walk.
Wallace, that's time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sue is next, then Natisha Carey and Mike O'Donnell.
My name is Sue Yateman, and I live in Normal, and I take currently the Yellow G route over by West College. And initially I was excited about the new route proposal until I found out that my bus stop would be eliminated along with other stops that I use. And I thought that would be okay if we had more frequent buses, but it doesn't work for me because under the new routes, I would have to walk 15 minutes to catch a bus and switch 3 buses to get to where I need to go. I'm disappointed with the lack of communication of Connect Transit with the riders. Not everyone is on Twitter and Facebook or has internet access. So finding out about these meetings through signs on the bus that are hard to read and hard to distinguish between the advertisements, that was disappointing. I'm also disappointed in the presentations for the route restructure because there was no mention of the hours of operation, no sample timetables were given, bus stop locations, and I don't think I ever heard anyone say that you would be eliminating the late night service. I would have liked to have someone from Connect explain how the bus routes will work in simple terms and how transfers will work and the Redbird shuttles and the Heartland Express hours. Currently, I'm happy with the service. It's easy, convenient, affordable, and safe. And for me, my needs, for the work that I do, I need to go to medical facilities, government buildings, social service agencies, daycare centers, and schools, anywhere from preschools to high schools. So I need that Lime I route, also the Pink D route. I feel that there could have been work in other areas, such as making smaller revisions to the current routes, and then maybe adding more fixed stops and giving discounted passes for students grades 12 and under, and working, building more shelters and signage and bus maintenance instead of this entire overhaul of the current route system. That's it.
Thank you. Natisha Carey, Mike O'Donnell, Deborah Edwards. Is Natisha here? Ms. Carey?
Yes, that's me. Right here.
Oh, okay. Hi.
My name is Nisha Carey, and I have heard that you're going to cancel the after-hours service, and I use that after-hours service quite a bit because I go over to a lot of my friends' house, or I go listen to karaoke or whatever, and I won't be able to do that if you cancel the after-hours service. And what about the people that are out there at work at their jobs after 9:30? How, if you cancel the after-hours service, then how are those people supposed to get home? And also, I do believe that you guys should have a better communication with your drivers, because a lot of I won't mention their names, but a lot of drivers, when you guys get ready to mess up these routes or whatever you want to say, the drivers don't know anything or they say they don't know much of anything, because you guys should have a better communication with your drivers, because all of your drivers do a damn good job in what they do. And I just want to say that I think all these drivers in here and outside of this room deserve better cooperation with you guys and better communication with you guys. Thank you.
Thank you, Nisha. Mike O'Donnell, Deborah Edwards, and then Sheriff Larson.
Mike O'Donnell with the West Bloomington Revitalization Project. I just want to echo Brian Herron's testimony earlier. We appreciate your introduction of the new Gold Route. It provides more options for residents of West Bloomington who lack ready access to affordable grocery shopping by offering the option of going not only to Aldi's and to the Walmart on the west side, but also to Kroger. So thank you for introducing the new Gold Route. In terms of complete streets, we realize too that this introduces a new transfer stop in order to get to the Lime I route, and people will have to cross very busy Market Street. So we would like to pledge our support to work with the City of Bloomington to make sure that we have adequate, safe pedestrian crossings. This weekend coming up, we'll be building 22 benches to include, many of which will be attached to bus stops on the west side, so we think that's part of a complete street strategy. Lastly, we know that once the routes have been voted on, you'll be doing a comprehensive educational campaign for the public. We pledge our support to provide opportunities and places where citizens can learn about the new routes and provide transportation guides to help them get to where they need to go. Thank you.
Thank you. Deborah Edwards, Sheriff Larson, and then Logan Frederick.
Me?
Deborah?
Okay. I have been riding the buses quite a lot, and I wrote in every route, and it would seem to me that it's really bothersome that there are people cut off from all of these, this route. I have been on the Alcoquay quite a lot, and it's the people that are in Danbury Court, Pepper Ridge, and you have also cut off the trailer courts, as it seems here, and there are people who use that route, And you have also cut off Evergreen, which is also a bus stop, and I've seen pictured in the new that was interviewed in the news a man who uses that route, and it's going to be a hardship for them. And although I do see new ones, but there really shouldn't be any cutoffs. I think there should be preservation of some routes that goes out. The city should branch out to all these places that are not, that people would like to see instead of being shrunk. We are a growing city. Both cities are, and we should be moving forward. Do you still go out to both Walmarts?
Yes.
You do? Thank you. And I don't think it's fair for the people who are now being, I think people should be, I think the bus line should preserve some of the route information right here. And instead of cutting those routes off, because there have been people, a lot of people, using those routes.
Deborah, that's time.
What?
That's 3 minutes.
That's what I
That's your
guess.
time limit.
Do I make a good point?
Everyone has made a good point tonight. We appreciate all the comments. Thank you. Sheriff Larson, Logan Frederick, and then Regina M.
Hi, my name is Jerica Watkins, and I'm here on behalf of Project Oz and Sheriff Lawson. We, as members of Project Oz, have discussed impacts of the current and proposed changes in the local bus system. The bus schedule seems to be most friendly for college students living near campus. Several of us are working and attending school but don't have the access or the convenience of living near campus to access certain routes. Many of us involved in Project Oz also use Connect Transit to access other social service agencies, housing units, and places of employment. Some of the newer routes proposed will help us access those areas, but will require multiple transfers. On behalf of the young mothers involved in social service agencies throughout town, major concerns of ours are extreme weather conditions, safety for our children after dark, and walking distances with or without the convenience of having strollers and allowing them on the buses. For example, being a single working mom who relies on public transportation, walking long distances while carrying a diaper bag, my bag, and a stroller could become a hassle if I don't have someone there to help me, because I was told once before when I had my baby 10 months ago that I could not bring my stroller on the bus. I had to break it down, seeing that if someone at Walmart comes on the bus, it takes up just the same amount of space. If they have to use their grocery bags to put them on like a seat or a walkway, it blocks walkways, just like they were telling me a stroller would. Although we have found some drawbacks to the newly proposed system, having more frequent buses and a Sunday route are a definite plus side in addition to the GO route, which allows more access to resourceful agencies on the west side of Bloomington. And on behalf of Project Oz, we appreciate your listening to our feedback regarding the new system.
Since you're speaking on behalf of someone else, could you say and spell your name for us, please?
Jerica Watkins is Jerica. Watkins, Watkins.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Logan Frederick, and then Regina M.
Hi, my name is Logan Frederick. I'm representing Advocate Broman Medical Center. When the original routes were proposed, we were projected to be on the green route, which the green route would have moved our stop approximately 900 and 1,200 feet from our current location. We were able to work with Connect Transit, worked with Kyle and Isaac to try to develop some alternatives to this solution. One of the solutions that was proposed was the Gold Route. So utilizing what is currently going to be running around the west side to come up to around Advocate Broman. Currently the map shows that it's going up a different road, but in discussions with Kyle last week, we determined that that will actually go up to Virginia Avenue. The maps were just kind of already printed and put together, so hopefully when we see a next proposal, it'll be on the Virginia Avenue Street and then come up Virginia, then to University to drop our patients off. This would reduce the walking distance from around 800 feet to close to 300 feet from the existing stop that was there before. We feel this is a decent compromise, but we are still, want to work with everyone in the future to ensure that our patients have safe access to and from the hospital location and the clinics that surround. Thank you.
Thank you. That brings us to our last speaker, Regina M.
Yes. I have concerns. I've heard people mention that. I know the main thing is for Connect to make money. Setting that aside, most of the people that are disabled and elderly are having to walk further and further and further. I've heard it said that Connect Mobility is there. Connect Mobility is making every one of us go through a process, and they've already told us that some of us will no longer qualify. Having to walk 4 blocks. I know Phoenix Towers fought to keep a bus stop, the Blue E. I am not here on behalf of Phoenix Towers. I'm here on behalf of myself. Explain to me how I can get 2 Krogers and home with either the gold or the blue, how I'm supposed to get back to Phoenix Towers. I've already tried walking from Phoenix to Walnut to catch the green A. I thought I was gonna die, and I'm not exaggerating. How can I get back home? That's one of the few grocery stores. And with the proposal, the Blue E is gonna go, they all think they won something on that Blue E at Phoenix. But not if it's gonna take us an additional 1 to 2 hours, we have been told, to get back home. That's not a win for anybody. The system is set up that everyone not paying has to walk so far that it's hoped that we'll stay off the buses so that it's available for paying people. We don't have access to the Connect Mobility. We don't. I don't have to use it all the time, but there are times. Bottom line said, we understand proprietorship is about making money. But we can't even do the 4-block intervals now with these new changes. And the sidewalks are not. Matter of fact, there's construction at the Mennonite. They're ripping that down. You can't even walk on the sidewalk over there. The sidewalks are so crickety, and the stores say it's the city's problem to fix these, clean the sidewalks, and the city says, oh no, that's touching the parking lot of that store, it's the stores.
Okay, Regina,
so
that's...
it's people like us, we're just gonna be off the bus.
Thanks for your comments. That's 3 minutes.
Thank you.
Gina is our last speaker tonight. That will close our public hearing. I'll give Andrew an opportunity to talk about any of the things he heard tonight.
Yes, and once again, thank you for all coming out. Very important comments. I do have a couple of clarifications to make. We had some early comments concerning Washington, which is going to be covered by the Gold Route, so hopefully that satisfies some of those concerns. If you have others, you can certainly convey those to us. With regard to the Olive Route, clearly we will look for proper coordination and fully ADA accessible bus stops where you would transfer to the Green Line or other routes. With regard to the first mile, last mile options, while I will reiterate we're not voting on that tomorrow, it is our intent as a staff to make sure that that is whatever service it is, be it Uber or something else, and it's still a fluid situation, that we will be looking at making it as seamless as possible. That includes subsidizing that trip to get into the system. So for those riding the bus for free, it would continue to be for free. With regard to late night service, there was a question brought up about late night service being discontinued. What our studies have found is the majority of late night service was demand responsive in nature, otherwise known as paratransit, transporting those who could not ride fixed route transit to begin with. We will still have demand response service during those hours, so there will still be service in place. Finally, with regard to the comment of the transit system being about making money, the fares cover only 12 to 14% of the total operating cost of the service. We are not in the business of making money. We are in the business of transporting people to where they need to go. And that is a heavily subsidized service, money provided by the government, in this case by the federal, state, and now local governments. And it is our intent to utilize those taxpayer resources in the most responsible way possible. And as I stated before, finding that balance between service efficiency and also service coverage. So we believe this is a balanced plan that addresses the majority of the needs. We are clear that it's not going to make everybody happy, but it is going to provide vastly improved service within the community. And while we have stated we are excited about it, and we are hoping that the community gets behind it and gets excited about it too. There will be a lot of outreach if this plan is passed, and a lot of communication, a lot of education on how these routes will work. And we look forward to working with all of you to make this a huge success. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew. Mark?
Just a question, Mr. Chairman, for staff. There was a suggestion that the gold route as depicted on this latest map may not be the latest iteration. Is there some additional changes on the gold route that we may not have seen yet, or? Probably need to step up to the
microphone. Yeah. Sorry.
Sure.
And please introduce yourself for those who may not know who you are.
Isaac Thorne, Chief Operating Officer. There were some concerns brought up on Friday from Broman about going from Virginia and Franklin. That'd be the best location. Actually, I'm sorry, Virginia and University would be the best location. So we're still looking at that to make that change. It wasn't depicted on the actual map tonight.
So this map shows, I think, it going back to Main Street on Apple or traversing Apple, but it may go up to Virginia possibly.
Correct.
Fairly minor change,
Correct.
but as far as you know, that's the only deviation that's under consideration
Correct.
at this point. Okay, thank you.
Any other trustee comments this evening? Okay. Seeing none, the public hearing is closed, and that will call for the adjournment of our meeting tonight. Thank you for coming.
Sounds like the people that mill around, you want to get them out.